Good evening. Welcome to the June 20th, 2018 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. At this time, I would request that everyone please turn off or mute all cell phones and other devices. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Applications heard during tonight's meeting will be voted on by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The Commission will then make a recommendation on the applications, which will be submitted to the St. Charles County Council for their final decision. The individual items and bills for this evening's applications are scheduled to be introduced at the Monday, July 9th, 2018 County Council meeting. Applications for preliminary plats heard during tonight's meeting will also be voted on by the Planning and Zoning Commission during the meeting. The vote on preliminary plats is final. Only a recommendation for denial of a preliminary plat would be heard before the County Council. The following documents are introduced as a matter of record for this evening's public hearing and regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Those documents are the Unified Development Ordinance of St. Charles County, including zoning maps, the year 2025 master plan for St. Charles County, which includes the year 2025 future land use plan map. I see we have a quorum. Do I have a motion to open the meeting?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, sign aye.
Aye.
We have quite a few revisions to the agenda as it was posted. Preliminary plat for Wortman Ridge, 1639 Dietrich Road was withdrawn prior to the meeting, so that was not part of tonight's meeting. We've had requests for 3 items to be continued until our July meeting. First is a preliminary plat for Timberwolf Farms, Old Colony Road. Chair would entertain a motion to continue this item.
So make a motion. Second.
All those in favor, sign aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, is there anybody in the room that wanted to speak to this tonight that didn't know about the continuation?
Anyone here to speak about the preliminary plat? Okay. Next is a rezoning and conditional use permit request for 7800 Highway N. This is Roden Brothers Properties, LLC.
I'll make a motion to continue.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor, sign aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak on this application? Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly declare and affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Rebecca Corson, 200 North 3rd Street, St. Charles, Missouri.
Go ahead.
My name's Rebecca Corson. I'm with the law firm of Hamilton Weber, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the city of Dardenne Prairie. The property that is subject of this application for rezoning and conditional use permit is adjacent to and surrounded by many properties that are part of Dardenne Prairie. The city of Dardenne Prairie is opposed to the rezoning and conditional use permit that is requested tonight in this application. If I can approach the commission, I've got some documents to distribute. So you'll find in these packets a resolution that tonight the Board of Aldermen is considering to pass, which would protest and oppose the requested rezoning. There are also letters voicing the city's general opposition to this application, including one letter from the Planning and Zoning Commission indicating that on their meeting on June 13th, they unanimously voted to oppose the rezoning and conditional use permit. As indicated by the resolution, the letters before you, and the staff recommendation, the requested rezoning and conditional use are not appropriate for this location. Consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city and the master plan of the county, the properties that surround this property, 7800 Highway N, are zoned for residential, light commercial, and retail uses. The city is currently updating its comprehensive plan as well, and it's considering rezoning surrounding properties to residential as well. No property in the vicinity of this property is zoned to allow an outdoor vehicular storage facility, such as that being requested under the conditional use permit, as either a permitted or conditional use under the ordinances of Dardenne Prairie. So the fact that this is not allowed under the zoning, under any of the surrounding properties, indicates that it's an inconsistent use for the area. An outdoor vehicular storage facility such as this one would represent a visual blight at the very community center of Dardenne Prairie. It would result in a detrimental impact upon the enjoyment and value of the surrounding residential, school, and church property uses. Furthermore, it would be an eyesore. This property is situated at the entrance to the city's Center for Economic Development, and I'm afraid it may deter the new businesses the city hopes to draw into that area. In sum, the requested rezoning and use is unreasonable and inconsistent with the character of the area, will have a detrimental impact on the residences, church, and schools surrounding the property, its value and enjoyment thereof, and would interfere with the growth plan of Dardenne Prairie. For these reasons, the city of Dardenne Prairie is opposed to the requested rezoning and conditional use permit. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Anyone else come forward? You solemnly declare and affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Michelle Berry, and I live at 305 Abingdon Court. Address is O'Fallon, Missouri, and my back property backs up to Rodens, and everything she said. I agree with everything she said. I'm concerned about the value of the property. I'm concerned about the noise. I'm concerned about what they're going to do to the property, where they're going to put it. Are they going to fence it? Are they going to enclose it? Are they going to be open 24/7? How is that going to affect me and my property value as well? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, as a reminder, anyone that comes up to speak, please fill out one of our speaker cards on the rail so we get your name spelled correctly. Please raise your right hand. You solemnly declare and affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Michael Gavora. I live at 614 Calamar Court, O'Fallon, Missouri, 63368.
Go ahead.
Just a point of clarification, Councilman. Chapter 405 of the Unified Development Ordinance of St. Charles County, Missouri zoning regulations, Section 405, 125 and 130, the C1 neighborhood, which we have the zoning for right now, in that area states that any lawn care service on site of not less than 1 acre and all lawn care materials and related equipment or vehicles are required to be stored within an actuary structure. If you look at the two properties, the Rodden property and the adjacent one to the east, they are both lawn care or landscaping companies, and there's equipment all over the place, in their fields, all over their property. Nothing is in a actuary structure. So at this point, I feel that they've already paved and gravelled a lot of the land that had huge pin oaks on it. They took all those down, put gravel in, the drainage onto my property because I back up to their property in Keystone Crossing, the subdivision that's adjacent to them. The runoff, is major now. We didn't have that before. Even when they paved for ICD, Immaculate Conception, Dardenne Prairie, all that runoff goes under Highway N and over to the drainage ditch on the south side of Highway N, and then down through those fields, which increased the water flow into my property. So I've got a drainage ditch now running through my property that I didn't have when I moved in there. It was supposed to be a small swale, according to Burke Emperor when they built the property, and now it's a ditch. And it gets, anywhere from 8 to almost 2 feet deep sometimes when we get a good rain for, a day or day and a half. So we're opposed to this rezoning for the fact that they're not living up to the zoning regulations now with their equipment. We've seen them over the last 18 years gravel that property in and cause more runoff in the area. And if there's traffic in and out of there, we have no idea of what kind of eyesore that's going to create back there. If you look up on Technology Drive, there's a storage facility, a vehicle storage facility up there, and there's rusted cars. There's cars with tarps on them that are all torn up, and it's going to definitely decrease the property value of the surrounding area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Raise your right hand, please. You solemnly declare and affirm that you tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Lee Forrester. I'm at 111 Keystone Crossing Drive in O'Fallon, 63368. So I just wanted to also say I am opposed to this rezoning. I have been living at 111 Keystone Crossing for 18 years. Rodens has always had the common ground split with the creek running behind my backyard. For the most part, over the years, it's been quiet, more of an agricultural setting. It's very the use of the land all around. It's been very good for raising families and very open throughout that area. However, this would fail to preserve all that. Turning it into a parking lot, RVs sitting around, car storage, et cetera. It's not what the Darden area was meant to be. I think it would also hurt our home value over time. And as the gentleman said before us, on the other side of the Keystone Crossing subdivision, there is already an RV storage that the entryway is from Technology Center Drive, and it's unsightly as it is. And it's taken him almost 18 years to halfway clean that up to where it looks presentable, but it's still not what it should be. It's not. And then across from Highway 40 on the other side, as you are approaching Lake St. Louis, they have just put in a storage facility, multi-level storage facility. So I think we have enough storage facilities out in the St. Charles, Darden Prairie area. So again, I would just oppose this rezoning.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we will close this public hearing. For those individuals that spoke, please be advised that if this is brought back on our July agenda, then we would hear from the applicant and then have a public hearing at that time. So if the applicant requests it be on our July agenda, then we would have the applicant speak and then a second public hearing. So you would have another opportunity. The next item is a rezoning and conditional use permit request 566 Highway P. The application is CUR 18-03. The applicant is Joseph and Paula Dames. They've requested that this be continued.
I'll make a motion to continue.
Second.
All those in favor, sign aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone here to speak regarding this application? Please, do you solemnly declare and affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Nevada Smith, 400 North 5th Street, St. Charles, Missouri, 63301. I'm an attorney representing Michael and Susan Smith, who are landowners at 405 Dames Park Drive in O'Fallon, Missouri, 63366. They are opposed to the rezoning and conditional use permit at 566 Highway P. That area of Highway P is a two-lane highway. It's quite busy. It has speeds of 50 miles per hour. There's concerns about how the traffic flow would be monitored with, again, putting a parking lot essentially on property. How are people going to enter and exit off of Highway P? It's hard to tell from the plat, but it doesn't look like there would be an additional turn lane, and so you would have people turning in and out of a 50-mile-an-hour highway at that section. Drainage, that part of Highway P along with Dames Park, when there is significant rainflow floods, there is concern again with developing that land and putting a parking lot, depending on what the structure would be, that it would continue to add to the flood area. Lighting on that property, there's currently lighting at Dames Park itself, and when those lights are on, there's Dames Park subdivision, which is right there, which receives that lighting, as well as another subdivision that's behind it. If you add a structure, presumably there would be some other lighting that's there that would interfere with the residents. There's concern with noise. There's already some residential development that's right there. There's Bleachers Bar, there's Jeremy's on P. There's noise that comes with that, and there's concern about additional noise coming from people entering and exiting and parking things on this parking lot. That area as well is mainly a park along with some subdivisions. There's concern about the landscaping of the area, what it will do as well to property values. It's not consistent with what that area of the property is like. There's concern about security. What would the lot be like? Would it be secured? What is actually going to be allowed to be parked on that lot? And so for that reason, the landowners, at least the Smiths at that location, would oppose the rezoning and conditional use permit, CUR 18-03.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ma'am? You solemnly declare and affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Christine Reinhardt, 411 Dames Park Drive, O'Fallon, 63366.
Go ahead.
And we do own a villa in Dames Park, and we are very close to Highway P. And we object to the parking lot being built there. Highway P is very narrow. There's no shoulder. It's 2 lanes. The speed goes from where you turn off Highway M onto P from 50 to 60 miles an hour, and there's no turn lanes, and I just can't see that handling that kind of traffic. I think it would be a hazard and detrimental to our property values, and that's my biggest objections.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sir? You solemnly declare and affirm that you tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Steve Herpel, 320 Autumn Forest Drive, O'Fallon, Missouri. I prepared some things for you all to look at, to consider on this property. I didn't make enough for everyone, but I'd like you to look at them if you would,
You can
please.
put them on the screen right here if
Yeah.
you want to.
Oh, can I?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how to do that.
It'll come up.
It'll come up on its own.
Okay. I've lived in my current residence on Highway P since March of 2014. I grew up in the neighborhood right beside it on Capri. So I've lived on this highway, right off of Highway P, for 60 years. I can tell you that the peace and quiet that I enjoyed through growing up out there is gone. And Mr. Settle, I think this is your district. I'm sure you're fairly familiar with Highway P. Yeah. And I get what Joey wants to do, make some money off this, but anybody that's ever driven by that knows there's been a decaying barn there that they tore down a few years ago. But there's also a house that's very neglected in in its maintenance. I can't imagine them putting up anything that would receive any better maintenance than what we've seen through the years in this house. It's been a rental property for quite some time. So the area in the circle is where they're looking to build. My house is right here, across the property from that. I don't know if y'all have looked at traffic and accident reports, but I can tell you I've called EMS 36 times in the 14 years I've lived there. You need to look at accident reports for this. There are people constantly crashing. The distance from a blind curve, which it's a blind curve going into this property going westbound, is about 1/10 of a mile. At 50 miles an hour, that's a 7-second duration. A 21-foot truck pulling a 30-foot trailer is not going to take 7 seconds to pull out of that and go to O'Fallon. They're going to take quite a bit of time. Coming from the other side is about 600 feet, a little bit longer, but in either case, it's still only about 7 seconds. This view is 2/10 of a mile from the property. You cannot see the entrance to that property. Okay, in 14 seconds, I'm going to round it and I'm going to be there. Okay, I'm going 50 plus miles an hour. And I don't think people are, if you drive Highway P, you'll know this is a little bit closer. You still can't see the entrance. And finally, as you round that blind corner, you're 1/10 of a mile from the property and you're 5 to 7 seconds from hitting somebody that's pulling out, pulling a 50-foot vehicle between trailer and vehicle. I don't think that that's a very good placement for this, and I don't think that they've considered that. Coming from the other side, coming in is even worse. It's totally blind. Not only do you're going in the same lane that anybody that's pulling out with a trailer like that is going to head to O'Fallon more than likely, because it's easier access to 79 to go up to the river or to 70 to go to the lake if they're pulling a boat or an RV. So I think that anybody coming around this corner is probably going to plow somebody coming out of that property pulling a long trailer. There's also on North Main Street, right here, and that property is right here, so about 2 miles away there's a storage lot that's not full right now. So there is access to storage in that area. Also, if you go out Highway P to Lake Charles Hills, there's storage there with available storage. So if you go 3 miles one way or 2 miles another way, there's adequate storage. The area that you see right here is all, the nice rectangle, is all being put under roof right now. You guys know that. You know how many houses they're going to put in there. They're putting over 600 houses in that area in about a 5-year period of time. So when I moved out there's 44. The population is not going to slow down. The traffic on Highway P is not going to slow down. The amount of effort that it's going to take for people to avoid things here is going to be terrible. And I urge you guys to consider the location, the hazard to the public, and the lack of maintenance for historical on the property exhibited by the owner of the property on its current structure as indicative of what we can expect from them in the future. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Ma'am? Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly declare and affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Marilyn Zizet. I live at 413 Dames Park, O'Fallon 63366. I'm like 500 feet from the property that we're talking about, and the gentleman before me pretty well covered it. Traffic is probably the worst thing. I mean, you try and come out of Dames Park Drive and even get on Highway P, And you have to sit there and really watch it because nobody's coming and all of a sudden they're there because they drive more than the speed limit. And also, I'm certain it's going to be an eyesore. Now, I have been an owner of a truck and a trailer, so I know a little bit about that, and most of the ones that we even stored ours in, you didn't want them on a main street by nice property because they don't take care of them. The people pull their junk in and leave it. And so basically eyesore, but more than anything, the traffic. It just is, it's bad now, and I can't imagine it getting any worse with, I mean, it will get worse with something like that. So thank you for your
Okay.
time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
With this leading, I'll take my oath.
Do you solemnly declare and affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, public advocate and county resident, and I'm also a resident of the city of O'Fallon. As I've spoke to you before about other conditional use permits involving storage of boats, RVs, jet skis, cars, the resounding issue keeps coming up, and I wish staff would take a grip of it and somebody would start to do something and formulate policy. It's code enforcement, code enforcement, and code enforcement. These are conditional use permits, which are you're granting that obligation to vary from our code for something that's not allowable in the zoning code. We need protections in St. Charles County, and we need to protect the rights of other property owners and the communities that these facilities are going in. I understand why this is being created. It's because of the restrictions and covenants of the subdivisions, not allowing parking of boats, trailers, RVs on a driveway, unless you can fit them in your garage. And they're quite long and large, and so that's what's driving this. Now we have some people in the county, like the Kevins, who are honorable, respectful, a man of his word. And then we have some people in the county who don't follow the conditions and don't follow our zoning or our code, our codified code, and we need to do something about that. We need insurance and responsibilities, and I'm kind of upset with the staff the last 3 months. The staff places easy and minimum conditions, not putting the required conditions, and according to state law and our home rule county charter, you people in the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting can add and go above and beyond what the Planning and Zoning Director, Mr. Myers, and the Assistant Planning Director recommend as the bare minimum conditions. Maybe they're trying to be political, maybe they're trying to be easy to get along with, but we need to ensure that our county is being adhered to and that our code is being followed. Now, I took this measure to the O'Fallon City Council, and the property is located on the south side of Highway P, approximately 250 feet southeast of Park Ridge Drive, which is an unincorporated parcel adjacent to the city of O'Fallon on two sides within the immediate proximity of Dames Park, which, if you know where that's at, it's a very large park. It has a lot of flooding issues. There are a number of accidents which has been testified. The city council recently, 2 months ago, lowered the speed limit. Unfortunately, the Missouri Department of Transportation and Highways has not acted upon that ordinance and has not acted upon that request to lower the speed limit. There needs to be safety improvements needed. It's a very curvy type highway, and it hasn't been kept up with the times. There's a number of residential developments, and that part of North O'Fallon is exploding. If you look at the community development building permits, they're off the charts from last year and this year. It's not conducive with the comprehensive plan of St. Charles County and not conducive with the comprehensive plan of the city of O'Fallon, which this commission, by state law, must take into account. There's landscaping issues, there's lighting issues, and there's definitely flooding issues, which almost every season except for this year, Highway P is not flooded. The O'Fallon City Council rightfully has a substantial interest in development proposals for unincorporated pockets of St. Charles County, which are adjacent to property in O'Fallon, since such developments can have significant and broad-ranging impacts on the use and enjoyment of property within the city of O'Fallon. The proposed rezoning of the subject property and proposed conditional use permit, now pending in St. Charles County, conflicts with those important goals and will perpetuate disharmony and confusion and impede the efficient service by inserting an awkward and ill-conceived land use and site plan at a critical location along Missouri Highway P. The O'Fallon City Council hereby expresses to the St. Charles County Planning and Zoning Commission and to the St. Charles County Council its opinion that the proposed rezoning and conditional use permit applications for the property on the south side of Highway P, approximately 250 feet southeast of Park Ridge Drive, are inappropriate and ill-conceived and should be but denied by the Planning and Zoning Commission and the full County Council. The O'Fallon City Council further asks that the St. Charles County Planning and Zoning Commission and the St. Charles County Council to cooperate in orderly and logical development of property and delivery of public services by supporting and facilitating the annexation of property into the city of O'Fallon. And that brings up a key point, intergovernmental relations and affairs. The county executive has a full-time assistant director of administration who deals with intergovernmental relations. That, unfortunately, in the Darden Prairie case, in this case, and also the case in New Melle, didn't come to the forefront. And these local officials and local communities were not notified timely to participate and be part of the planning process. Now I'd like to read into the record the resolution passed by the City Council by 9 out of the 10 members of the O'Fallon City Council on June 14th.
That's already part of the record, sir.
Okay, I'd like to read it into the record,
It's part
please.
of the record.
What do you mean it's part of the record?
We have received it. We already have it.
Okay. So there was one member that was absent due to her husband being ill, but she would have passed it and would have been a 10-0 vote. That was brought down here to the Office of County Registrar, Brenda S. Hinton, and it was filed on June 15th, 2018. The resolution 06/14/2018M was signed by Mayor Bill Hennessy on
Sir,
June...
we have that. Okay, we have that information.
Can you please ask your attorney? I'm allowed to testify and make a record here.
We have it part of the record.
I understand. I'd like
Okay,
to...
so we don't need someone else to make it part of the record. We
Well, I'd like
have
to-
that.
If you just give me a minute, I'll finish.
Well, go right ahead, but
Let's time that minute.
yes.
So on June 14th, it was signed by Mayor Bill Hennessy, and it was attested to by Pam L. Clement, the city clerk, and officified by the city attorney, Kevin O'Keefe. For those reasons, I ask that the Planning and Zoning Commission members fully comply with the remonstrance that was filed in the resolution passed by 9 out of the 10 members of the City Council, and I ask that you deny this application. It doesn't make any sense in the comprehensive plan. There aren't the appropriate conditions that are put on by staff, and it doesn't do us in O'Fallon any good to have this type of development. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just have one question while we're on that. I don't have a copy of that. You said it's in the record?
Yeah, it's in the packet. City of O'Fallon opposition letter.
Very interesting.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly declare and affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
It's William Reinhardt. I live at 411 Dames Park Drive in O'Fallon. Zip code is 63366.
Go ahead, sir.
Morning, or afternoon, evening. My question at this point is, I don't want to go over all the information that's been provided. I think the issues on safety are very important. But one other issue that hasn't been mentioned is that behind the villas that I live in is a wetland. And I'm not sure who is responsible for it, whether it's county, state, or whatever. But my question would be, has any consideration been taken on what kind of drainage, what kind of pollutants might come from this storage area into the wetland and kill things off? And so that's my only point for this evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Do you solemnly declare and affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, sir.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm David McNeil. I live at 19 Forest View Drive in O'Fallon, Missouri, 63366. My family and I, we protest or don't agree with this rezoning. We've been residents there for approximately 20 years. If you know the area, it's very residential, very rural. It's got a very nice feel to it. We think this is not in keeping with the general feel of the place, and we think it will have a negative effect both on our quality of life and enjoying our area where we live, as well as our property values. We think it would end up being an eyesore that would be a negative to the area. Furthermore, you've heard the concerns about flooding. Those are very real. This is a high flood area, and surely paving this additional land is not going to help that, but rather it's going to hurt that. You've heard the concerns about traffic. We share those. And finally, we would say, we're not really interested in having this rezoned to create a place for others to effectively store their junk in our backyard. So that's not something we want. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? The same as the prior CUR, if this is requested to come back on our agenda in July, then we would, the procedure would be to hear from the applicant, then to again have another public hearing at that point. So you may keep watching for the July agenda to see if this comes back, but before the commission. So, okay. Thank you. Next item, we get to the agenda. The first official thing on our agenda is preliminary plat for the Craig Boschert subdivision, 5288 Blasey Station Road. Application is PRE 18-06. The owner is Claude A. Boschert and Nancy C. Boschert. The applicant is Craig Boschert. Surveyors Landmark Surveying Company. The property is Zone RR, Single Family Residential District. Area is 7 acres. The number of lots is 2. The location is on the east side of Blasey Station Road, approximately 1,300 feet south of Susan Avenue, Council District 6. Staff.
All right. You should have a revised copy of the plat that was distributed this evening. Staff has reviewed the plat. They have met all of our requirements for a preliminary plat. Staff is recommending approval. However, there is one issue. If you remember, this parcel came up for rezoning earlier this year. It was approved by County Council. The reason that they have to file a plat is because earlier, post-1999, when the Unified Development Ordinance went into effect, a previous property was split off to the south of this property. Consequently, the remainder has to be platted as a subdivision. It can no longer be split by a simple deed and survey. So that's why they had to come forward with a preliminary plat. The only issue that we have, that we do have to ask that it be sent on to County Council for approval of a variance is County Ordinance Section 410.280, number 2, requires that all plats have driveway access to an interior subdivision street. So this plat, it does not make sense. County Highway Department has reviewed it. They agree that the one driveway access with an easement to the parent parcel to the south be used instead of creating a street, having a cul-de-sac turnaround or something like that. So they are recommending that it go forward with this easement as shown on the plat. Basically, it's the existing driveway with easement to the southern parcel. So staff is recommending approval of the plat. However, they are also requesting the variance from the interior street requirement, which means it will have to go on to County Council for a vote. and decision.
Any questions of staff? Let's see, applicant wish to speak? You don't have to if you don't want to.
Just had a question on that. Will it have to go?
Come forward. Let me swear you in. Do you solemnly declare and affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, sir.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Craig Boschert, 1124 Black Forest Drive, St. Charles, Missouri, 63301.
Okay, your question,
My question is that going to have to go through 2 county council meetings then, or will we be able to get this wrapped up in one, or?
It will be sent on to county council. Typically, Mike, looks like you're about to answer.
I don't think that we can do that on the consent agenda. It's, procedural-wise, I think that it'll still be introduced and then passed at the second one.
Okay. All right, thank you.
thank you.
I do have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
On this plat, it appears that the parcel to the south, that the lake is like right in the middle of it.
Yes, sir.
And I'm looking at the elevation that it would be all pretty much floodplain around there. What was your, if you're going to put an improvement in there, a home or whatever, where would that be?
It would be on the north side of the driveway, close to Blaze Station Road. We're actually looking at setting it back off the road 80 feet. And then there would be the appropriate boundaries, 40 feet to the north, 40 feet to the driveway. Or it's actually like 60-something feet to the property line on the south side. It would be well above the 500-year floodplain.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Anyone here in the public speak regarding this? If not, we'll bring it back to the commission.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Second. Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Klinghammer?
Yes.
Mr. Setley?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Clary?
Yes.
Mr. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Fromm?
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay. Next up on the agenda,
I just have to interject. You said, I would like to ask staff if you could either email me or something, but that O'Fallon part was missing. Resolution was not part of my packet. So I know you said it, and I go through every single meticulous page. I didn't get it. So I would like to have it.
okay,
That may have been an update to the packet, but then we received the request to continue. It
Okay.
will be in next month's packet
Okay,
completely.
if you could send me a copy, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
okay. Motion to approve the minutes from the May 16th, 2018 meeting.
I'll make a motion.
All those in favor, sign aye.
Aye.
Okay. There will be no closed meeting, no closed meeting session, as appears on the agenda. Any other business to bring forward the commission?
Motion for adjournment. Second.
All those in favor, sign aye.
Aye.